I was reading a new BL called Jinx. It's coming out now and it's by the same creator as the person who made BJ Alex, which is amazing. Anyone who likes BL, please read BJ Alex. But yes, so I was reading it and I kind of noticed something interesting with the body proportions. I noticed that his head was a little small for his body. I will admit that. I was like, oh, you know, I respect the artistic choice, I do, but it seems that people online do not like it. People don't like this kind of trope. They don't like when the head is smaller than typically seen in other comics and other mediums. I mean, it's all subjective either way, it's art, right? But they don't like that artistic choice. So I wanted to understand what this big body and small head trope is. I wanted to understand, when is it seen? Where is it actually seen when we're talking about manhwas, mangas, webtoons? Where is it? And I wanted to get why it's hated and why it should also be loved. I mean, there should be a balance. We need to understand the positives and negatives of everything to have a peaceful society. So that is what I'm here to do to you. I mean, Jesus, that's right, I'm not doing anything to you. Just so that you can have a better understanding of the trope than I did when I initially saw it for the first time in about 2 weeks, because this is not very uncommon. So first off, I want to explain to you what this trope is, what I found from my research, so that I can educate you and explain to you what we're talking about today. What are we discussing? Well, we're discussing the big body, small head trope, which is when the male lead of a comic's head, or like any other male character, but we'll go with male lead for now, I guess, is unrealistically small when compared to a typically gigantic sized muscly mecha body. That's what I found from collating so many different definitions, you know, so many different things. That's what I found. So yes, this is the definition that we're going to be going across. Big body, small head. I mean, it's in the title. This trope has also been suggested to be similar to yaoi hands. You know, the trope, you might not know actually, and I might go into detail in a later video, but the trope is, which generally, the hands are massive, the hands are just way too big. This is kind of like a connection. It's like it's cousin, you know, it's like related trope where instead of the hands being too big, the body is too big or the head is too small, but usually it's never one or the other. Usually the body is always very muscly, and like I defined just now, the head is a bit unrealistically small. Unrealistically, you know what I'm saying? Next, after we know what the big bodied small head trope is, we also want to know when it's seen. We want to know, when can you find this thing? Where is it? Where is it located? Just so that you understand the circumstances that you will come across this trope. The first realistic place you're gonna see the big body and small head trope is in the sauce aisle in a supermarket. And the second place that you'll see a big body and small head trope is in a webtoon. There are many different webtoons. Like I said, BJ Alex, but there's also Searching for My Father. You'll also find it under the pens of a stressed, poor artist, under the pens of a young, inexperienced artist, and under the pens of kinky artists, because it might be intentional. Now that we know where the big body and small head trope comes from, I first wanted to know why people found it bad, because that was the first thing I saw. People were berating it. People were saying it was a bad thing, that they didn't enjoy seeing it and that it grated on them. And I wanted to know why. What were they saying? Well, this is generally the consensus on the trope so far. The disadvantages of having a big body and a small head in a comic is that you feel jealous of his bulging muscles. The next one is that it's a bit unrealistic. You know, the body itself is too big. You would need to be in a gym 24/7 every minute of the day to be able to achieve such a defined body and eat those meals that we often see these male leads eating. And in terms of being unrealistic, we must think about the neck, the arms, the abs, because it's not just the head and the shoulders that are unrealistic. No, it's the whole anatomy of the body. And then what does this mean? Well, you know, the toxic stereotypes that, you know, people might be reading this and thinking, oh, I want to be like this stereotypical masculine
overly steroid pumped body, but it's not realistic, and it's perpetuating stereotypes that might harm the audience. Think about the audience when you're looking at these weird bodies.
Another reason that people don't like this trope is that chibi is cute. Reverse chibi is not. And a last thing that I noted that I found online is that it diverts attention from the plot and the story. I mean, they were saying, how can they focus on a story when the hand of the protagonist is bigger than his entire head? It is quite distracting. But I'm also here to give a balanced argument. While that is the consensus in general, I wanted to talk about the advantages of this trope as well. What makes this trope a good trope? What makes it not as bad as you think? Well, open your mind so that you can actually see the truth. So the advantages of the big body and small head trope goes as follows. First of all, in a story, you want the male protagonist and the male lead to be noticeable. Well, with the big body, small head trope, there is no issues with that. They will always stick out of the crowd. Why will you never miss them in the crowd? Well, because people will run away from them because of their monstrous proportions. Very scary. Kawaii. You know what I'm saying?
Another advantage is the idea that it is strength. These bodies are strong. The fact that their shoulders are so much bigger than their heads implies that they trained so hard that they've pushed human capabilities to the limits, and that they are able to defeat things bigger than them, better than them, stronger than them, like the monsters that they might fight, or the love triangles they might battle in, things like that. So it really does show strength to the reader and to those around them, and I think that's a beautiful thing.
Next up is something very convenient. If their shoulders are big, then they can carry much weight. They can carry so many things like trees and houses and all of their red flags that they ultimately have, because they are main leads in either a romance or an OP protagonist space. A last point that I wanted to bring up that really nails it on the head of why this big body, small head trope is important and is actually advantageous is that their heads are so small that the female lead, should there be a female lead, can take his head, detach it from his body and use it as a basketball, and then they can have really fun times playing basketball while he watches on headless from the sideline. It makes for a very kind, very nice and very generous MC.
They say every generation a new genius is born, but while this genius did make those wonderful art masterpieces, this genius does not take commissions.
And that's what the big body, small head trope is. And while it is seen as a bad trope and a very confusing one, I hope this video kind of explained to you what it is, where it's seen, why it is seen as bad, and why it can also be seen as good. If you like BL, I recommend BJ Alex and I recommend Jinx. Otherwise, if you want to do one thing, then subscribe. And then I say a quirky goodbye. Jane annyeong. Jane annyeong. Jane annyeong.
And if you have time, could you check out ABENI'S army? Thank you. Link in description. Thank you. Ha ha ha. Yeah, okay. Bye.